nirasya sarva sandeham akikritya sudarshanam prakashita rahasyam tam vajami gurumishwaram Śrī Govinda parāravinda marupan Anyābilashuddhitān Purna prema rasutsavo jalamano vritti prasannānanan Shashvad Krishna katha mahamrita payo Rasho murakedato Vande bhagavatani mananudabam Murdna nipatyakshito Namo Mahavaranyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gaura Tishe Nama Jayatam Surato Pangor Mama Mandamate Gati Matsarvasva Param Bhojo Radha Madana Mohana Kulari Devatamor Madana Mohan Jar Sevak Raghunatha Rup Sanatan Jaya Rupa Sanatana Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunath Echai Goshai Kori Charana Vandan Jaha hoite vignanasha bhishta puran Adadanas trinam dantoy yacheham puna puna Shimadrupa parambojo dhyulisam janma janmani Raganugami bhajanola samanasanam Śrī Radhaya sahasara smaratam brajendhum Śrī Rupa Kamala Śrita Chetasam me Chittam Satam Madhukari Yatupada Padme Yaram Nikilaga Shanga Samani Shutratritim Sangata Yasvadyarasikai Sukabdi Janani Mukti adhikarya mukti spriham Yadhyata hridaye vrajendra tanuja Premamrita syandini Sajiyad hari bhakta vrinda mohita Dhanyeha Padyavali So by the grace of Shri Kali Yuga Pavana, the Svabhajana Vibhajana Prayojana Avatar, Prema Purushottam, Karuna Mahasagar, Shri Gauranga Mahaprabhu, and his beloved Parshad, the crest jewel of Gaudiya Vaishnava charges, the fulfiller of his heart's desire in this world, Shri Rupa Goswami Pad. Again, today we'll continue our discussion of Padyavali, and we're here in the section on Nāma-kīrtana. So in our last reading, we concluded discussion of the verse Trinadapi Sunichena of Sriman Mahaprabhu, and we looked at 3 examples of Nāma-kīrtan cited here by Sri Rupa Goswami Pad. So today, we'll look at the remaining examples or illustrations that he cites in this section. And I'll just reread the 3 verses we read last time themselves, and then we'll come to the first verse of discussion for today. So from 33, it says, Śrī Rameti Janardaneti Jagatamnateti Narayane Tyanandeti Dayapareti Kamalakanteti Krishneti Cha Śrīman Nāma Mahamritabdi Lahari Kalula Magnam Muhur Muyantam Galadashu Netram Avasham Mamnata Nityam Guru. O Śrī Rāma, O Janardana, O Jagannath, O Narayana, O Ananda, O Dayapara, O Kamalakanta, O Krishna. please always make me immersed in the billowing waves of the ocean of the superb nectar of your beautiful names, repeatedly mystified, brimming with tears streaming from my eyes, and overwhelmed, O Nātha. Śrīkanta Krishna Karunamaya Kanjanabha Kaivalya-vallabha Mukunda Murantaketi Nāma-valim vimalamo tikaharam lakshmi Lavanya-vanchana-karim karavani-kante. O Śrīkanta, O Krishna, O Karunamaya, O Kanjanabha, O Kaivalya-vallabha, O Mukunda, O Murantaka. Let me place around my throat these names which beguile the beauty and luster of a spotless pearl necklace. Krishna Rama Mukunda Vamana Vasudeva Jagat-guru Matsya Kachappa Narasingha Varaha Raghava Pahimam Devadanava Naradadi Munindra Vandya Dayanidhe Devaki Sutta Dehim Metava Pada Bhaktim Machanchalam. O Krishna, O Rama, O Mukunda, O Vamana, O Vasudeva, O Guru of the world, O Matsya, O Kurma, O Narasingha, O Varaha, O Raghava, please protect me. O you who are worshipped by the Devas, Danavas, and foremost of sages, led by Narada, O ocean of grace, O son of Devaki, please grant me unwavering bhakti to your feet. So now we come to verse 36. So this will be the first fresh verse of the day. He Gopālaka, he kṛpā-jalanidhe, he sindhu-kanyā-pate, he Kaṁsāntaka, he Gajendra-karuṇā-pārīṇa, he Mādhava, he Rāmānuja, he jagat-traya-guro, he Puṇḍarīkākṣa mam, he Gopī-jana-nātha pālaya paraṁ, jānāmi tvāṁ vinā. O Gopālaka, O kṛpā-jalanidhi, O Sindhu-kanyā-pati, O Kaṁsāntaka, O Gajendra-karuṇā-pārīṇa, O Mādhava, O Rāmānuja, O jagat-traya-guro, O Puṇḍarīkākṣa, O Gopī-jana-nātha, please protect me. I do not know anyone other than you. So as I mentioned, names in these verses that were commented on in the earlier verses will not be commented on again in these verses, but the names that are yet to have been discussed will be explained. So he says, Hey Gopālaka, this means, O youthful cowherd. So the name Gopal is common. So ka as a suffix added to a word can convey that it is something is small or cute or young or endearing. So to call him Gopālaka is to speak of him as a cowherd boy or a youthful cowherd. He kṛpā-jalanidhi means O ocean of grace. He Sindhu-kanyā-pati, O husband, means O husband of the ocean's daughter. So Lakshmi Devi is said to be the daughter of Varun Dev, or the Sindhu, because she appeared from the ocean after it was churned by the Devas and Asuras with the assistance of Vishnu. So she's known as Sindhu-kanyā, or the daughter of the ocean. So Sindhu-kanyā-pati means Lakshmi-pati, O husband of the ocean's daughter, Lakshmi. O Kaṁsāntaka means O slayer of Kaṁsa. He Gajendra-karuṇā-pārīṇa means, O you who are profusely compassionate to Gajendra, or, O you who out of compassion reach near Gajendra. Alternately, the text can be read as Gajendra-karuṇā-pārīṇa, in which case there are two names, which mean, O you who sustain compassion towards Gajendra, and O you who are unknowable. Alternately, the text can also be read as Gajendra-karuṇā-pārīṇa, in which case there are two names that mean, O you who have compassion for Gajendra, and O you crossing beyond whom does not occur. That is, O you whose utmost extremity no one can reach. So, the commentator gives 6 interpretations of this name, so there you have them. And soon in the Padyavali, I think it's verse 50-something, there's a very charming verse describing this Leela of Bhagavan showing his compassion to Gajendra. So we'll revisit that subject soon. Hey Mādhava means, O descendant of Madhu, or O you who play by means of sweetness, madhu, that is, madhura rasa. Alternately, Mādhava can be read as a compound, Mādhava, in which case the word Ma can refer to Lakshmi or Radha, or knowledge, or Maya, or Yoga Maya, or beauty, or wealth, or fortune, or various other things. And Dhava can mean husband, lover, master, or possessor. Depending on the context and intent, the name Mādhava can thus convey a wide range of literal and suggestive meanings. So, this case of the name Mādhava, it's too much to cite all of the verses that, or comments that show different interpretations of it. So I've just given the core elements that allow for understanding of the range, if you will, of the different meanings. Hey Rāmānuja means, O younger brother of Rama, that is, O Krishna, the younger brother of Balaram. O jagat-traya-guro means, O master of the 3 worlds. Hey Puṇḍarīkākṣa means, O you of lotus eyes. Hey Gopī-jana-nātha means, O Lord of the gopis. The commentator explains that after the author prays, please protect me, mam pālaya, Sri Bhagavan challenges the author's level of fixity upon him by saying, you should take shelter of others, they will protect you. So it's as if all these names are said in the verse. He's calling out and then saying, mam pālaya, O Krishna, O Rāmānuja, etc., please protect me. And then it's as if Krishna hears this and then says, why should I protect you? There's many people who can protect you. Why don't you go to someone else? Why are you appealing to me specifically? So as if to see the level of fixity upon him, as though, someone wants, some service, they go to some provider, they say, what do you charge to do this? And they say, oh, well, we charge that. And you say, oh, too much, I'm going to someone else. And then that seeker doesn't really have any fixity upon you, they just want whoever will do it for the cheapest price. So they have zero nishta. They're completely looking for their own interest. So in this case, this is how Bhagavan is evaluated. Does this person just want some protection? Does it not matter to them who protects them? So if that's the case, then anyone can protect them. So why should I do it? So he says this to see, is this person really interested in me? Or are they just interested in protection? So this is how the commentator is conceiving of the reason for the final statement in the verse along these lines. So the author thus replies at the end of the verse, I do not know anyone other than or superior to you. Paraṁ jānāmi na tvāṁ vinā. By which he implies, therefore, whom shall I worship That is, I cannot even think of worshipping anyone other than you. In other words, by saying, I don't know anyone other than you, or I don't know anyone superior to you, depending, the word paraṁ can mean other or greater, so you can interpret the word paraṁ in either way. So if we take it as superior, then he's implying that I recognize you to be Bhagavan himself, to be supreme, and therefore that is the basis of my nishta, or my fixity upon you, or that I don't know anyone other than you. In other words, I'm fixed upon you, I'm not interested in connection with anyone else. So, in this way, the verse demonstrates the spirit and style of kirtan performed by one-pointed or aikantik bhaktas of Sri Bhagavan. So, many people do kirtan, many people sing Bhagavan's names, and for some, they can sing names of Vishnu, names of Shiva, names of Krishna, names of Durga. It's all good. It's all one. It's all, different ways of speaking of the one supreme energy or divine or what have you. Okay, they may have this idea. It may be based on a clear philosophical idea. It may be in the absence of any clear, coherent theological viewpoint. Or it may be what Rupa Goswami terms samanya bhakti or swachha bhakti, where there is bhakti, but there is no specific nishta on a specified ishta devata, or on a particular form of relationship with that ishta devata. So names of Vishnu, names of this avatar, names of that avatar makes little difference. So that's one more form of bhakti. That's also of value, that's also worthy of respect. But when the author of this verse says, I know no one other than you, and he uses names in this verse which refer only to Vishnu and Krishna, then we can understand that this author may be, have the Ishta Devata of this author may be Krishna or it may be Vishnu. In either case, it's specified. He's a Vaishnava specifically. So he has Nishta in Bhagavan, Vishnu. So by saying, I don't know anyone other than you, then the commentator is drawing out from that this is an example of kirtan by someone who's doing kirtan with fixity upon a specified Ishta Devata, or based on the principle of Bhagavad Bhakti, in contrast to bhakti in a looser sense. And the commentator draws out one other point from the grammar in the verse. The commentator also raises the question as to why the informal second person pronoun tvāṁ is used in this verse to refer to Sri Bhagavan, who is supremely worshipable, rather than the respectful bhavantam. So, unlike English, many other languages have this wonderful facility of having multiple pronouns to refer to someone in second person that can convey familiarity and infamiliarity, or respect and intimacy, and a contest between the Spanish, French, Italian, Sanskrit, Bengali. Most all languages have this. For whatever reason, English does not. So it's hard to translate in English. Here in Sanskrit, there's the form yushmat, which is the informal second person pronoun, and there is the bhavat pronoun, which is the formal or respectful form. So in this verse, the yushmat root, which comes out in accusative case as tvāṁ, is used. So he's referring to Bhagavan and praying for protection, but addressing Bhagavan using this informal pronoun. So you may wonder why, when you're addressing he who's supremely worthy of respect and you're seeking, some favor from him, it would seem all entirely appropriate to use the respectful pronoun rather than the informal pronoun. So why did the author nevertheless use the informal pronoun? Then the commentator reasons as follows. The commentator answers this by saying that a permanent distinction, or atyanta bhed, is readily understood to exist between two entities when declined forms of the informal second-person pronoun yushmat, that is tvāṁ, and the first-person pronoun asmat, that is, or in this case, aham, are used to refer to them. And thus the author's intent is to negate the notion of the absolute non-distinction conceived of between the self and Sri Bhagavan by Mayavadis, and to convey his own state of servitude to Sri Bhagavan. So he takes it this way, that if one has the mood of being a servant of Bhagavan, then there is also a certain degree of familiarity in that relationship and scope to refer to whom one serves using the informal pronoun. So he takes it that that is the sense, and that by using such pronouns, there's a clear sense of distinction between the self and the object of the prayer, Bhagavan. So he gives this, so I've included it, no harm. Alright, so we'll come to the next verse. Śrī Nārāyaṇa Puṇḍarīka-nayana Śrī Rāma sītā-pate govindācyuta Nanda-nandana mukundānanda Damodara Vishnu Raghava Vasudeva nṛ-hare devendra-cūḍāmaṇe saṁsārārṇava-karṇa-dhāraka hare śrī-kṛṣṇa tubhyam namah. O Śrī Nārāyaṇa, O Puṇḍarīka-nayana, O Śrī Rāma, O Sītā-pati, O Govinda, O Achyuta, O Nanda-nandana, O Mukunda, O Ananda, O Damodara, O Vishnu, O Raghava, O Vasudeva, O nṛ-hare, O crest jewel of the foremost of the Devas, O helmsman on the ocean of samsara, O Hari, O Śrī-kṛṣṇa, obeisance unto you. So Puṇḍarīka-nayana means, O you of lotus eyes. Sītā-pate means, O husband of Sita, that is the Ram of Ayodhya. Govinda refers primarily to Śrī-kṛṣṇa as the keeper of the cows in Braja. So the Rupa Goswami cites a verse of the Harivaṅśha Purana in this regard, where Indra said to Krishna, I am certainly the Indra, or Lord of the Devas, and you are present here in Braja as the Indra, or Lord of the cows. Thus, the people on earth will always sing of you as being Govinda. So Govinda is understood to mean Go Indra, or the Indra of the Go, the Lord of the cows, or the keeper of the cows, the guardian of the cows. So this is one meaning of the name Govinda. Since the name Govinda literally means the possessor of go, and the word go has numerous meanings in addition to cow, such as the senses, the earth, the world, speech, and the Vedas, the name Govinda can also convey many other meanings according to context and intent. So again, there's many interesting ways the name Govinda is taken in the 10th canto in various verses by the commentators, but to give a complete rendering of them would take up a lot of space. So I've just, as in the case of the name Mādhava, just shown the range of potential. Achyuta in general means, O infallible one, and more specifically can be taken to mean he who, by virtue of capability within his own essential nature, has not, does not, and will not ever become deviated. And he who does not become deviated from his own bhaktas. So the root chu means to swerve off, or to deviate, or to go astray, so to speak. So achyuta means one who doesn't go off. In other words, who doesn't make a mistake, who doesn't go wrong, who's, quote, infallible. Or, by virtue of his own capability, is, never has, never will go wrong or deviate in some way. And that is sometimes conceived of in particular in his relationship with his bhaktas. In other words, he who never lets his bhaktas down. Nanda-nandana means, O darling of Nanda. So sometimes we say son of Nanda. The word Nandana means son, but more specifically it means one who causes joy. So a darling is the closest thing we have in English to a word that refers to both a son and someone who's a cause or a source of endearment. Damodar, literally rope belly, means, O you who have had a rope tied around your belly. And this is spoken of again in the Harivamsa. Because of being bound by a rope around the belly, Krishna is sung of by the gopis in Braja as Damodar. Vishnu means all-pervading one. So the root vish means to pervade. So Vishnu means he who's pervading, meaning in the ultimate sense, pervading of everything. So this is stated in the Padma Puran. Keshava is present everywhere, pervading all these planes. Thus, furthermore, you have the name Vishnu, as per the explanation of the verbal root vish, to pervade. Nṛ-hare, literally man-lion, is a synonym for the names Nrsimha and Narasingha. So I remember scratching my head on this when I was first hearing this name. I thought, Hari, that's a name of Vishnu, that's a name of Krishna. So Nri means human. So Nṛ-hare means human Hari, human Krishna, or human Vishnu. But they're always using this name Nṛ-hare about Narasimhadev. I don't get it. I remember just in a very, just in the very beginning, like, I don't get this name. But the idea is that the word Hari is not only a name for Bhagavan, it's also a common word for a lion. So Hari meaning one who takes, so the lion is the biggest, predator in the jungle who goes around, taking its prey, so to speak. So a lion is also described as, the taker, or the usurper, if you will. So the word for lion is Hari. So in this name Nṛ-hare, the word Hari isn't Hari in the sense of Bhagavan, but it's Hari in the sense of lion. So just as Singha means lion, so also does Hari. So Nri, Singha, Nri, Hari are identical in meaning. O helmsman on the ocean of samsara, suggests that kirtan and so forth of Sri Bhagavan and his names are a boat to cross over the ocean of samsara. Alright, so now we'll come to a final verse, which is my personal favorite in this prakaran. Bandire shishikanda mandanavara shikanda liptangahe Vrindaranya puran daraspurara mandendi varashamala Kalindi priya nanda-nandana paranandara vindekshana Shri Govinda Mukunda Sundaratano Mamdina Manandaya. So a nice example of alliteration, the sound, combining either the N and the D, or the cerebral N and the D, or the anusvar and the D. Combining this, you have, repeatedly in every line this cascading alliteration again and again. So many verses in the Padyavali also have ornaments like that. I'm not always commenting on them, but this one I find to have a very nice roll off the tongue, and plus the Shardula Vikridita meter. I think that choice of alliteration combined with this type of meter is excellent. And this is a rare case where we find something attributed to Gopal Bhatta. So presumably this is our Gopal Bhatta Goswami, and we don't find, of course, and it's understood that he had a great contribution to the Shat Sandarbha as well as the Hari Bhakti Vilas, Some consider him the principal author of those works, others to have been an initial compiler of the content that was elaborated and edited and finished by Jiva Goswami. Undoubtedly, he had a worshipable, honorable, memorable contribution to those works. But apart from them, we don't find sources of other writings of his. Some attribute a text called the Satkriya Sarata Dipika to him, but this is doubtful. So this is therefore I say a rare case where we find other writing in his name. So the verse is, O Bandiresha, O Śrī Mandana, O Vara, O Śrī Liptanga, O Vrindaranya Purandara, O Spurara Mandendivara Shamala, O Kalindi Priya, O Nanda-nandana, O Parananda, O Aravindakshana, O Shri Govinda, O Mukunda, O Sundara Tanu, please delight my poor self. So this verse features names that are dear to the residents of Braja, that is, names of Śrī Krishna of Braja exclusively. So in all the other verses, you have a mixture of names of various avatars of Vishnu, names of Krishna performing his leelas in Braja, as well as in Dwaraka. So a unique point to observe about this verse is that all of the names exclusively pertain to Śrī Krishna of Braja. So therefore, the commentator says that this verse features names that are dear to the residents of Braja, because the names that are dear to the residents of Braja are the names that describe Krishna's feats, Krishna's leelas there in Braja, the things that they've seen, the things that they've experienced, the things that they relish. So this is, perhaps we could say, most apt of any of the examples given in this prakaran of a form of Nāma-kīrtana that would be applicable in the sadhana of sadhakas whose Ishta Devata is the Dhira Lalita Śrī Krishna of Braja, as described in the opening verse of the text. So let's look at the meaning of these names. Bandiresh, literally banyan master. So one word for a banyan tree is bandira. So as there's the bandir van among the 12 forests of Braja, so he's the Isha of the banyan, or the bandira. So this refers to Śrī Krishna's having the right to play amid the banyan trees of Braja. This is how the commentator interprets it. But in this case, I have my 2 cents on this one. Or it can be taken to mean, O master beneath the banyan, and allude to his expertise in flute playing, which he often exhibits standing at the base of a well-known banyan tree called Vangshivat. So, personally, no doubt Krishna may play in the banyan trees and be entitled to do so, or as the prince have right, so to speak, to play throughout all the public lands of Braja. I very much like the idea that the name also alludes to his playing of the flute at the base of the banyan trees, which is one of the common ways in which he initiates the Rasa Leela, as described by Kaviraj Goswami, Rasa Rambi Vangshivata Tatastite. So, if we take it in that sense, it can also allude specifically to those Leelas. Anyway, Śrī Mandana means, O you whose ornament is a peacock tail feather. Vara means, O you who are best. Alternately, these last 2 names can be read to be in compound. Śrī Mandana Vara, in which case the meaning is, O you who are the best or most desirable by virtue of your peacock tail feather ornament. And the word vara also comes from bri, which can mean the root meaning to choose or to prefer. So it can mean best, but it can also mean who's most desirable, in the sense of attractive or beautiful by virtue of this peacock feather ornament, which is, you could say, one of Krishna's signature marks. Then, Śrī Liptanga means, O you whose limbs are anointed with sandalwood paste. So one word for sandalwood is śrī-kṛṣṇa. So śrī-kṛṣṇa liptanga means you whose angas or limbs are anointed with śrī-kṛṣṇa, sandalwood. Vrindaranya Purandara means O Lord of the forest of Brinda. Spuradamandindivara Shamala means O you of excellent, lustrous, blue lotus-like, swarthy complexion. So Shamala means swarthy. Indivara means a blue lotus. Spurad means shining or lustrous. And amanda literally means not bad, but more typically it's used in the sense of best, the way we would say something is unparalleled. You're simply saying that it's the greatest of the things. So amanda, in that sense of excellent. So he has this complexion which is swarthy in that it resembles bright, excellent blue lotuses. Kalindi Priya means O you to whom the Yamuna is dear, or O you who are dear to the Yamuna. So whether you read it as a possessive compound or an adjectival compound, you can get both meanings. Nanda-nandana means O darling of Nanda. Parananda means O you of paramount bliss, or O you who are paramount bliss. Means you can take it in the sense that Krishna feels paramount bliss, or that he causes the experience of paramount bliss for others. Aravindakshana means O you of lotus eyes. Sundaratanu means O you of beautiful figure. The commentator negates there being any desire for personal pleasure in the author's prayer, quote, please delight my poor self, by interpreting it as follows. Please delight my poor self, that is, I who am miserable or weak or piteous because of the absence of sight of you, by giving me direct sight of you and accepting service from me. So the verse ends with this mam dinam anandaya. Anandaya, the verb meaning cause ananda, or give me ananda, give me bliss. So he's describing Krishna as parananda, or the source of the greatest bliss, and then saying, give or cause me ananda. I am dina, or I am sad, or I am in a poor or wretched or sad state. So you might say, oh, well, the whole premise of bhakti is to try to please Krishna, not to get pleasure from Krishna. What kind of prayer is this? He's shamelessly praying for his own pleasure from Krishna. So, that this would be not the intended sense, or the idea would be, if we assume that the author of this poem is a pure bhakta, then that can never be the author's intent, that he's simply seeking to get pleasure from Krishna. And rather it's understood that there's no greater pleasure for a bhakta, or the true and only pleasure of a bhakta is Krishna's pleasure, what they call the tat sukha bhav, that his sense of pleasure is in Krishna's pleasure. Tat sukhe sukhe, tat sat dukkhe dukkhe, that to be saddened by the sorrow of the other and delighted by the delight of the other, this is the oneness of heart, or the fixity, the nishta, that is characteristic of a bhakta's attachment to the Ishta Devata. So, therefore, to pray for, or to say, please delight me, in other words, is to say, may you allow me to perform such an act that I shall satisfy you, and thereby seeing your satisfaction, that I may also feel satisfaction. So my joy is only in serving you, or causing pleasure for you. So to say, please me, or delight me, means give me the chance to serve you, or please be pleased, such that I shall become pleased. And, similarly, we can add that Jiva Goswami Pad, who's, the principal commentator on all of these points, having given the interpretation of the term Anya-bilashita shunyam in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu and elaborated so extensively throughout the Shatsandarbha upon the idea of pure bhakti or uttama bhakti, akinchana bhakti, ananya bhakti, aikantik bhakti, all these terms are discussed. But at the very end of the entire Shatsandarbha, Jiva Goswami also prays for his own, quote-unquote, for his own pleasure, with this verse, Alibi paripalita prabalita sanandama lukita pratyasham sumana falodaya vido samudam asvadita vrindaranya puran vrindaranya what is that? Sorry, I'm crossing it with this vrindaranya purandar in this verse. Vrindaranya Madurai Prakash Vrindaranya something Prakasha Madura Sarvati Shai Shriya Radha Mādhavayor Vilasayatumam Ulasa Kalpa Druma. This is his final prayer, where he speaks of a desire tree or a kalpa-druma. And that desire tree is a desire tree of ulas, a desire tree of delight or elation, joy. And that desire tree of joy is the joy of Radha and Mādhava. So Radha and Madhava's joy is compared to a desire tree. And he describes it as alibi prabalita, or that tree has been fortified, or it's been, cared for and looked after in a sense of the way an arborist looks after a tree in an orchard, by the alis, that is, by the Sakhis of Radharani. So alibi prabalita, it's been protected by them, it's been, some enclosure or some enclosure, we can say, around it has been made for its protection. And it is sanandam alukita, and that tree is looked upon with delight or with bliss by these Sakhis. And pratyasham sumana faludaya vidho samudam asvadita, and it's also held with great expectation at the prospect of its blossoms, of its fruits. In other words, just as someone who looks after a tree may regularly come and see, and when there's sprouts starting, then when there's buds coming, then when the flowers are coming, then when the fruits start to emerge, then as they're, eagerly looking, as they're taking such pleasure in seeing those the emergence of those fruits, and ultimately samudam asvadita, and then when those fruits finally come, then that person is eating those fruits, is relishing those fruits. Then it is said that the Sakhis, they relish with delight these fruits on this tree. So the implication is that Radha and Madhava's elation is like this tree, and it produces the fruits of various sattvika bhavas, sanchari bhavas, anubhavas, smiles, sidelong glances, and haripalation and joking and smiling and so on and so forth. And that these are like the fruits, the flowers, the beautiful foliage coming out on the tree. So the Sakhis, they care for this tree, they look after this tree, they are excited to see the emergence of the beauties of this tree, and then when the fruits and the flowers emerge, then they relish that. And this tree is found in Vrindavan, which is, manifest with all sweetness and replete with splendors of the most wonderful variety. Something like this is how the verse ends. So finally, the point that's made in the verse is he says, Radha Madhavayor pramodayatu mam. He says, may this desire tree of Radha and Mādhava's elation completely delight me. So he's praying, I want pleasure, I want to be delighted by this tree. But the tree that is going to delight him is the delight or is the elation of Radha and Mādhava. So although he's apparently or superficially praying for his own pleasure, his pleasure is that which the source of which is the pleasure of Radha and Mādhava. So in that way, it's free from any, what might be called contamination, or free from any taint in being self-interested and not principally focused upon the satisfaction and pleasure of the Ishta. So Jiva Goswami, he ends the entirety of the Satsandarbha with this prayer, conveying, you could say, the essence of the entire thing. If one goes through the whole of the Sandarbhas and captures the whole of what they teach, then one will ultimately aspire to serve Radha and Mādhava with this type of bhav and find such incomparable joy in the joy that Radha and Mādhava feel in the course of their lila in Braja, relishing the sweetness of the prem of one another. So similarly here, Gopal Bhatta, he's calling out to that very Krishna who has such a beautiful figure, who's the Lord of Vrindavan, who takes pleasure in his lila on the bank of the Kalindi, or of the bank of the Yamuna, with Radharani and company. And he's saying, please delight me. So the implication would be, please give me the chance to assist in your seva in the midst of your lila there. Please allow me the pleasure of being a witness to and being an instrumental cause in the inexhaustible, beginningless, endless, ever-increasing, ever-fresh bliss that you feel in the midst of your lila in Braja with Radharani and her companions, relishing the incomparable, incomprehensible, unique prema that is cherished in your hearts. Alright, so I'll stop here for today. That ends the prakaran on Krishna Nāma-kīrtana. So the next prakaran will be Śrī Krishna Katha Mahatmya, or the greatness of Krishna Katha, discussion of Krishna. So we had a section on Nama Mahatmya, or the greatness of Bhagavan's name. Then we had this section on examples of kirtan, or chanting of these names, praying with these names. So now we come to the greatness of discussion of Krishna. So that will go on for some time. So I'll stop here. If anyone has any comments or corrections, questions, please go ahead. Yes.
I have one, actually few. Just a quick recap. Can you explain Nanda-nandana? It's Nanda is the son or deer. Nanda-nandana. Nanda-nandana. Would it be referring to Nanda Maharaj?
Yes, the Nanda is Nanda Maharaj, and the Nandana is one who causes Ananda.
Oh, okay. Okay, it's a Nanda Anandana.
Nanda, Nandana.
Nandana.
So the word Ananda, in that context, the long A is a prefix on the word Nandana. So the word Ananda is Ananda. And
yes. So
we typically think of the word Ananda to mean happiness or joy or bliss, but more specifically, it refers to Nanda, which is also a word which means happiness or joy, and the prefix A is a superlative, so it means great or complete joy or complete happiness. So sometimes if you were to think of Nanda as happiness or delight, then Ananda would be like complete delight, so call it bliss, or use a word that's a little stronger to refer to that type of great favorable feeling, if you will. So Ananda and Nanda, generally speaking, can be considered synonymous. So Nandana would then be one who is an instrument in producing Nanda or Ananda. So Nandana would mean a delighter, or a cause of joy, a cause of Nanda. And it's also a word that by Rudyartha, or just by conventional meaning, is a word for a sun. Because, especially in Indian culture, a sun is, generally associated with one of the greatest sources of joy in life. There's the statement in the Sanskrit Vyakaran that, grammarians celebrate the saving of half a syllable in their writings like the birth of a son. So, when something is used as the object to which something else is compared, the implication is that that is the epitome of what it refers to. So to compare the joy that grammarians feel in writing with concision to the birth of a son implies that the birth of a son is one of the most joyous things in life. So, the sun is a source of joy, therefore the word Nandana, or one who causes joy, is simply a word that means sun.
Poor daughters. Anyway, and I have long deliberation on the aspect of devotees not praying for anything for one's own pleasure, but only focus on pleasure of Bhagavan. And I find it difficult to comprehend, because where do you actually draw the line? If existence of bhakta is totally based on pleasure, why would you do anything if it's not pleasurable to you? Nobody's doing things because they are painful and disturbing and don't lead to any type of resolution of fulfillment. So bhaktas, this statement that bhakta never prays for anything for one's own, or doesn't take pleasure, I find it too drastic or too extreme, or not complete explanation of actually what's happening, because we exist. Bhakti itself, it's pleasure. It's sort of pleasure for those who taste it, even in very premature stage, immature stage. So if when Jiva Goswami prays for the pleasure that comes from pleasure of Radha and Krishna, and it's nothing wrong with. I mean, of course, it's nothing wrong, but it's natural thing that the bhakta will pray for. Because why would you pray for anything if actually doesn't benefit you or helps you to continue the thing that you do, or find the objective of your pursuit, which is ultimately Ananda. It's ultimately Bhakti is Ananda. So I find it a little bit like extreme to state that Bhakta never prays for anything that it doesn't make him happy. For many years I heard this rhetorics, and then they led to actually the development of such mentality of like self-punishing mentality, or self-deteriorating, developing self of guilt. Oh my God, I shouldn't do this because it's not, going to the point that we're basically things don't, the whole sadhana, its whole process becomes unpleasurable, like difficult because it seems like it has to be difficult in order to give way of pleasure for Bhagavan, but difficult in a way that it's painful. But truly speaking, I'll come to understanding that asking for, not asking directly for one's own pleasure, but your existence, your life is Ananda itself. If your life is maintained by the pleasure, the satisfaction of Bhagavan, you're asking for pleasure. You want pleasure. You want to be happy. You want to be part of this Ananda that comes from prema, of exchange in between Vaishnavas and Krishna, Radha Krishna, and you want to be part of it. You want pleasure, actually, but it's disguised in a form of, well, we are in a plane of dasya, right? Dasya requires servitude, but why would you do servitude if you don't want to serve? If service doesn't make you happy, like it's constant. Maybe there's this subject that needs to be discussed is the whole concept of rasa. What is rasa? What leads to rasa? And
okay.
Okay, go ahead. I'm
Sorry.
trying to express.
If the questions can be a little concise, I think it would make it easier to reply to. It's like many elements getting introduced.
Yes.
What I can say is that the virtue of a bhakta can be conceived of relishing no pleasure independent of Bhagavan's pleasure.
Okay.
That the nature of the psyche is that it gravitates towards favorable feeling, it gravitates away from unfavorable feeling. This is not a virtue or a vice, this is just the way the machine is built. It's not part of the Atma, it's just the way the chitta, the antakaran, the manas, buddhi, ahankar, this system, that's just how it works. So the fact that anybody with one of those machines finds that the machine gravitates like that, like, sorry, just a sec. Okay, so what I was saying is that the way the psyche is built is such that it gravitates towards sukh and it gravitates away from dukh. And then the question of virtue or vice is less about having a tendency towards pleasure and a tendency away from pain, as it is about how one applies that tendency of the mind and with what degree of integration with the greater whole that one is a part of, one allows that drive of the mind to propel one or impel one. So to seek pleasure at the expense of another is not, a great way to be a part of a group, so to speak. But if there were a way to acquire satisfaction in a way that also caused satisfaction for others, that would be a far more harmonious way of abiding in the machine or in the psyche than one that seeks pleasure at the expense of others. So the pleasure that comes from serving others is considered more virtuous than the pleasure that comes from competing with, conquering, subduing, overcoming, overpowering, manipulating, exploiting others, etc. So of all forms of integration, or of all forms of experience of sukh that are also mutually beneficial to others, the service of Bhagavan is the ultimate, as the analogy is given in the Bhagavat. By watering the root of the tree, all of the branches, all of the leaves, all of the fruits, all the flowers are nourished. Similarly, by worshipping Bhagavan, all the devatas, all the rishis, all the forefathers, all human beings, all living entities are all satisfied. So, to merge, so to speak, one's happiness into Bhagavan's happiness, or to direct that impelling force in the psyche towards sukh and away from dukh, to fixate it and, pin it, so to speak, upon the pleasure of Bhagavan, this is in essence, you could say, the virtue of a Vaishnava, or what makes the experience of sukha on the part of the Vaishnava to be considered to be of the highest spiritual order, because it's completely integrated with the whole of the reality of which everyone is a part, and it is achieved at the expense of none, and rather to the benefit of all, principally led by he who's most worthy of being served or assisted, he who is the source of all experiences of bliss, namely Ananda, as he's been described in these verses, Swayam Bhagavan. So, while it is often said that bhaktas never seek personal pleasure, or bhaktas are completely selfless, and such statements can be made, it should be understood that such remarks are made within the context of the idea that Bhagavan's pleasure is the source of a bhakta's pleasure. Similarly, bhaktas are repeatedly described in the Bhagavatam as nishkama. Does that mean that they don't desire Bhagavan? Definitely not. It means that they desire nothing other than Bhagavan. So similarly, Rupa Goswami said, Anya-bilashita shunyam, that some people should be free from other desirousness of another, which implies they are desirousness of something. So Jiva Goswami says, Bhakti matra abhilash in the Tika, that they desire only bhakti. And what is bhakti? Bhakti is causing pleasure to Bhagavan. So what in essence do they desire? They desire Bhagavan's pleasure. And in doing so, there's nothing more pleasing than succeeding in pleasing Bhagavan. So you can say, hey, look, these people actually just want the greatest pleasure, because they're seeking the greatest pleasure that you can feel, which is the pleasure of having prem for Bhagavan. And the Taitiru Upanishad says Brahmananda is superior to all other varieties of Ananda, and Bhakti-ananda is beyond even Brahmananda. These guys are actually the most intensely desirous. Chakravartipad even hammers this, saying, all these Gyanis are so proud, thinking they're beyond having desire and they just want moksha. Actually, moksha is the greatest selfishness, because they want a higher order of Ananda than any of these other guys. So they shouldn't have the arrogance that they're beyond a desire for pleasure. Actually, they're the most, grubby. They're the most desirous, so to speak, But then we could add to Chakravartipad's comment, well, then that makes the bhakta the most, even more greedy, because he's desiring Ananda that's even greater than what the Gyanis want. So they're so desirous of Ananda. So then you might say, well, this is just a joke, this is just a bunch of selfishness. So the reason that it's nevertheless accepted as the paragon of virtue is that pursuit of Ananda is integrated with the pleasure of he whose Ananda is most befitting, and it comes at the expense of none and rather to the benefit of all. So it's the merging of one's pursuit of Ananda, which is, what any embodied being has the tendency to do, as per the opening statement of the Priti Sandarbha, where he says that every Purush, or every embodied being, seeks sukh and seeks the removal of dukh, and that occurs only in the absolute sense in Bhagavat Prem, or Bhagavat Priti. Therefore Priti is the Purushartha, and is the Prayojan. And a Prayojan is that which does complete yojana, or, it fully engages one. So the word prayojana, as per the Nyaya Shastras that Jiva Goswami is alluding to, by using this terminology, is that motivated by which one acts. So it's the impelling force. So to say that Bhagavat Priti is the prayojana is to say that one is impelled by the pursuit of Priti, and Priti is that which is going to be the greatest source of Ananda. And that's not unknown to these sadhakas who are doing that. They're studying it and they know it darn well. So you can come along and say, hey, look, you all know that this is actually just a way of trying to get the greatest happiness for yourself. So, ultimately it's like, yes, agreed, we're caught, it's true. But nevertheless, it's still accepted, as I said, as the highest virtue, because it's not based on competition, it's not based on enfranchisement of others, it's not based on exploitation of others, it's based on the satisfaction of he by whose satisfaction all others are nourished and satisfied to the greatest extent. Mm-hmm. So it's the integration, or it's the marrying, if you will, or the dovetailing of that drive towards Ananda with the pleasure of Bhagavan, that is the ultimate, genius, if you will, or the ultimate cleverness of bhaktas. There's a Bengali payar, they sometimes say, Krishna bhakta hoy boro chatur. There's nobody cleverer than a bhakta. So you might interpret it along these lines. So in that way, just to answer your question specifically, when it is remarked that bhaktas never seek their own pleasure, or bhaktas never pray to Bhagavan for their own pleasure, then there's a clause, an unspoken clause in those statements, that they never pray for their own pleasure apart from the pleasure of Bhagavan, or that's not integrated with, or paired with, or contingent upon Bhagavan's satisfaction, and rather their pleasure is in pleasing Bhagavan. So just as bhaktas are said to be desireless, but actually full of desire for Bhagavan, so also they don't seek their own pleasure, and yet they seek the pleasure of Bhagavan, whereby they become also pleased.
Mm-hmm. Just to continue, it is a very nice explanation. I really like that. Unfortunately, I hear myself going. I'm thinking that because Bhagavan is Rasaraj, he's a source of all. He takes pleasure of everything that exists, and of every action of mentality of every single jiva. Can we say that he's conscious of all happenings and all relationship with jivas, that not even conscious of him, but he's conscious of them, and derives pleasure of all varieties of relationship with all of the jiva?
Maybe. Depends where you're going with it.
Okay. But because sometimes thinking that the nature of bhakti will depends on your mindset, of course. Depending on the mindset, if you understand that Bhagavan is always enjoying, and you conceive yourself as enjoying element of his enjoyment, then that mentality itself may provoke you to actually do some physical service or not. It doesn't really matter, because you understand that you exist for his own pleasure. And whatever you do, you actually you're in creating his pleasure. You're not in control. You understand that you are not control of your life. You're completely controlled by his energies, with Shakti, with his will. And basically, you have this mindset that will basically give you this understanding that actually he's enjoying anyway. Whether I do this, I do that. And with this kind of mindset, you would, whatever you do, it's service. It could be small, big, doesn't matter what. But if you understand that you exist only for his pleasure by default, that any conscious activity you do, mental or physical, is considered a bhakti that gives pleasure to him. Can we say that, or is there more to it?
I don't know if I'd say that.
Okay. Would you find fault in this?
Well, I mean, I guess it would have to depend on what context you're speaking. I mean, if we're talking about the path of Raganuga Bhakti, we're talking about the aspiration to serve Bhagavan Śrī Krishna of Braja. The mentality of Brajbasis, is not that, whatever we do, is this or that, and, they're very much attentive to Krishna. They're very much interested in doing activities that are known to be pleasing to him. And they're not just thinking anything and everything that they might do is itself their service to him. Now, on the other hand, we can say Krishna, he loves the Brajbasis so wholeheartedly that it is actually true, whatever they do and however they act is pleasing to him and is endearing to him by virtue of his love and attachment and acceptance of them. But even though that's the case, that their mentality is entirely attentive to him, to how their relation with him, their means of satisfying him. So for sadhakas who aspire to that type of bhav, then, they're focused there, so to speak, and they're focused on using whatever faculties they're provided with by Bhagavan and all of his energies, such that they can, render service and render satisfaction to him so far as they're able.
Yes. So what comes to mind, thank you. What comes to mind is Uddhava, to continue the thought. Uddhava, who aspires for their service, but he himself doesn't feel competent, so he just may be a blade of grass that they step on. And this shows me that he got a point, actually. He understood that the greatness of bhakti is and you cannot duplicate what that's another topic I'm bringing, that what we aspire for, this Braja Bhakti, is unattainable, truly speaking, because only they can display, only Nitya Parikaras can display that kind of level of integrity in bhakti. So that's why Uddhava, who's very close to Krishna, he's just like Krishna, we know that he is, looks like Krishna, aspires for their remote service to them. So as if giving indication to everybody else that yes, we should be like these blades of grass. And where I'm going with this, what I'm saying is that that he displays sort of passivity, I would say. Maybe I'm wrong, but he, let me become just assistant in an insignificant speck of dust of their service. So it leads me to think that the whole mentality should be like that, and that mentality itself is the playground for any type of seva that one may be inspired to do. I mean, it seems to be clear, like a known thing what I'm saying. But for some reason, I find it intriguing that that one has to. We're so insignificant that even if we try to do something consciously for Bhagavan, it's still so small, really, so insignificant that even if we do something, it may give pleasure to Bhagavan to the degree that we never know. Now, that insignificant thing may give him great pleasure, and think that of great importance, apparently to us, may be considered by him, okay, it's fine. And is that, what I want to say is that our own understanding that we are part of his lila is crucial in our development of our bhakti. That we are by default part of his lila. Then how deep you want to be integrated or part of this, that's up to him and also our desires. But fundamentally, we simply need to develop that mentality that we are part of his lila, already existing lila. I'm not sure if this will get any light, but
I mean, you've got many threads running here. I don't know how I'm going to address all of them.
I know.
I'll just say that, we just had our classes on the Trinadapisanechana verse. We discussed this prayer of Uddhava. We discussed it in the context of its usage by Das Goswami, its usage by Rupa Goswami, the other prayers that complement it, and how it's integrated as one of a number of attitudes and aspects of the approach of a sadhaka who follows the path of Rupa Goswami. So this idea that alone is the final word, or that is the sole mentality of those who follow these teachings, that's totally not what we just discussed. So, people are welcome to think however they like, but as per the recent discussions we've had, I've demonstrated how that fits into and is part of, what is called dainya, but is not actually what is literally aspired for by Uddhava or by sadhakas following the path of Rupa Goswami.
Okay. Thank you for bringing this to focus. Yeah. Well, the previous samskaras were sometimes kick in and provoke different thoughts. Anyway, thank you. I will have to review everything we discussed with you. Thank you.
Yeah. There's also the statements in the Charitamrita and the Adi Lila where it's speaking about the purity of the Gopis' bhav, and the examples are given of Daruka as well as that of Radharani. Daruka is doing the seva of Krishna as his charioteer. Sometimes he's fanning Krishna. And then when he's so moved by the beauty of Krishna that he faints and is unable to continue his service, then he repents that. In other words, even though he might be overwhelmed by an intense feeling of pleasure, his attachment to his service, his attachment to producing pleasure for Krishna is greater than his own personal experience of receiving the effect of having perceived Krishna or pleased Krishna. Similarly, Radharani, when her eyes become so filled with tears at, perceiving Krishna in various ways, then she, although she's, so to speak, overwhelmed with emotion and joy, she prefers not that those tears or that intensity of feeling comes such that it obstructs her relation or what she's doing for Krishna at the time. So those examples are given by Kaviraj Goswami to show what is described as the taintlessness or the purity of bhaktas following this path of Uttam Bhakti, and how their attachment to Krishna's pleasure is never superseded by their own experience of pleasure. So this is one of the main guidelines as far as what is the bhav to be aspired for, and how the experience of pleasure is retained in the course of the, a sadhaka, a siddha, parikara, going about their various means and activities, but how the virtue or the purity of all such persons in being completely given over to Krishna, or Krishna-gata pran, so to speak, shines forth as their foremost characteristic. This point also comes to mind.
Right, thank you. This is nice. This is very inspiring. That's the thing. When you mention those examples, then naturally, what that inspires that actual bhakti, the heart in that direction, and that's the whole point. That be inspired by the examples of Nitya Parikaras, and that will actually cause that the kind of, attitude of dedicated bhakti.
Yes, we are beggars of their grace.
Yes, that's it. Yeah. More of those. I mean, it would be so nice to have some dose of reading and hearing those rasa shastra, examples whereby we can really inspire us, get the boost in proper direction, like that. And it would be nice that you mentioned Radharani and the examples of Kaviraj they gave. It'd be nice to hear more of those, actually. Just in my personal feeling, expression right now.
All right, well, we've gone quite long today, so let's conclude here, and we'll enter our next prakaran in our next reading here of the Padyavali. Vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Jai Shri Guru, Jai Shri Gaur, Jai Jai Shri Shri Radhe.
Jai Rama, Jai Rama.